The story begins with Dr. Susan conducting a dangerous experiment on a deadly shark. She had fitted a special device onto the shark's brain, but she had no idea that the slightest sign of danger would be enough to wake the vicious creature instantly. Luckily, the shark was knocked unconscious again. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Susan quickly secured the device to its head. Using an imaging system, she inserted a needle nearly 10 meters long deep into the shark's brain. Even though the shark was unconscious, it was clearly experiencing excruciating pain. After a while, Susan finally managed to extract 4.5 moles of protein from the shark's brain. The extracted protein was then mixed with damaged brain cells taken from Alzheimer's patients. Everyone in the lab held their breath, staring at the monitor and anxiously waiting for the results. If the experiment worked, it could potentially give millions of patients a new chance at life and make the research team an enormous amount of money. Then something incredible happened. As soon as the protein reacted with the damaged brain cells, the cells suddenly began coming back to life. The unbelievable result proved that their extremely difficult experiment had worked perfectly. Celebrating their breakthrough, one of the scientists immediately lit a cigarette. But the moment he casually walked toward the shark, the smell of the cigarette reached the creature. The shark suddenly woke up. Before anyone could react, it launched a brutal attack. Right in front of everyone, the scientist's arm was ripped clean off in an instant, sending the entire team into absolute panic. The shark had completely lost control. To stop the creature, Carter immediately smashed the glass, grabbed his harpoon gun, and prepared to take it down. Meanwhile, Susan was desperate to protect the hard-earned research results. Without wasting another second, she activated the system and released the deadly shark back into the deep ocean. But none of them realized that they had just made a massive and potentially fatal mistake. Carter immediately contacted the tower and called for the nearest medical team. After all, this entire incident had taken place inside a research facility located in the middle of the deep ocean. Outside, a violent storm was raging. For the first time in their lives, everyone witnessed the true and terrifying power of nature. Meanwhile, the injured scientist was rapidly losing blood, and his condition was getting worse by the second. Because of the extreme weather, the helicopter couldn't land at the facility. With no other option, the team used a steel cable to transport the badly injured scientist toward the medical crew. After that, everyone hurried toward the base, terrified that the massive waves could turn deadly at any moment. Thankfully, the rest of the team managed to reach the base safely. But the scientist lying on the stretcher was still in extremely critical condition. Then, without warning, the machine lifting him suddenly malfunctioned because of the violent weather. With nothing supporting him, he plunged straight into the terrifying shark-infested ocean, still attached to the cable. When everyone returned to the base, they saw something horrifying. The shark had clamped its powerful jaws around the cable and was using it to swing the helicopter around like a toy. Within seconds, the helicopter slammed into the tower and exploded in a massive blast, destroying it completely. The explosion was so powerful that flames quickly spread through several sections of the base. To make matters worse, their entire surveillance and communication system went offline. While everyone was focused on the control panel, Russell suddenly noticed something moving toward them at incredible speed. A second later, he realized what it was. The same shark was charging straight toward the glass wall with their injured teammate trapped inside its jaws. Just before reaching them, the shark slammed the man against the glass with tremendous force. The impact immediately sent cracks spreading across the supposedly reinforced glass. Seeing their dying teammate and the glass beginning to break, everyone was filled with even more terror. They were just about to move away when another horrifying disaster struck. The ocean suddenly burst through the damaged glass, sending freezing water flooding directly into the laboratory. As the icy water continued rising, panic spread through the entire team. With their lives on the line, everyone rushed through a secret emergency gate. But the pressure from the water was so intense that closing the gate seemed almost impossible. Still, they pushed with all their strength and somehow managed to lock it shut. For the moment, they were safe. But now they faced an even bigger problem. After the massive explosion and the flooding of the entire facility, how were they supposed to escape from this deep-sea research base? The only staircase leading to the surface had completely disappeared beneath the water, and no one knew what might be waiting on the other side of the door. There could be a massive, deadly shark lurking there, ready to attack. With no other choice, they ran toward the maintenance tunnel while the floodwater continued rushing after them from behind. Finally, at the last possible moment, they managed to open the main gate, clearing at least one route forward. But upstairs, the chef wasn't nearly as lucky. A dangerous little shark was silently stalking him. The moment he noticed it, his face went completely pale with fear. He sprinted for his life without even looking back and eventually made it into the kitchen. For the moment, he had escaped, but he wasn't taking any chances. He grabbed a pen lying nearby and waited cautiously. When he saw the shark turn and head in another direction, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, he couldn't stay there for long. He quickly started climbing onto a shelf, completely unaware that the shark had already circled back and was now dangerously close. Just as he was about to reach the top, his pet parrot suddenly appeared right in front of him. The chef panicked, his hand slipped, and he came crashing back down. Even then, he refused to give up. He wanted to climb back up while taking his beloved parrot with him. He reached out his hand and called for the bird, but just when he thought he could grab it, the situation suddenly became even worse. The shark slammed into the shelf with incredible force, sending the chef straight into the water. In that life or death moment, he spotted an oven nearby. With the shark closing in, he desperately swam toward it and squeezed himself inside just before the creature reached him. But the danger was far from over. The impact had accidentally switched the oven on, causing flammable gas inside to spread rapidly. Realizing he was trapped, the chef started hacking at the ceiling with his axe. As soon as he created an opening, he climbed out onto the top of the oven and jumped down behind the shark. The moment the shark heard him, it turned around and charged. That's when the chef pulled out a lighter and tossed it toward the oven. A split second later, a massive explosion rocked the area, killing the shark instantly. The explosion had taken down one shark, but it left everyone with a terrifying question. How could an ordinary sea creature become intelligent enough to attack humans so strategically? And why had it used its own prey as a weapon to break the glass? That's when Dr. Susan finally revealed the truth. To extract a special protein, the researchers had injected an illegal chemical directly into the shark's brains. The treatment caused their brains to grow abnormally large, dramatically increasing their intelligence. But there was a deadly side effect. The sharks had become far smarter, stronger, and more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Everyone was stunned and completely helpless. But standing around wasn't an option. They needed to find a way out before the remaining sharks killed them all. The team decided to escape using the submarine. Unfortunately, they soon discovered that the smaller shark had already destroyed it. Now they had only two options. They could swim to the platform on the first floor and try to reach the upper levels using the elevator. But one wrong move along the way would mean certain death. Both options were extremely dangerous, and the pressure quickly turned into anger and arguments among the team. That's when Russell suggested another way out, diving through the water and escaping that way. But apparently, the shark had other plans. Without warning, it launched itself out of the water, clamped its massive jaws around Russell, and dragged him violently into the depths. Everyone stood frozen in horror. It seemed like the shark had just eliminated their diving escape route for good. With no other choice, the team opened the gate ahead, hoping it would lead them toward the upper levels. But within seconds, the pressure difference caused seawater to rush violently into the elevator shaft. Two team members risked their lives and somehow managed to shut the door before the entire area flooded. But another nightmare was waiting for them above. A massive explosion had already started a fire in the elevator area, and the equipment stored there was beginning to explode one piece after another. Meanwhile, the shark kept slamming its enormous body against the door, trying desperately to break through. As the situation got worse, Carter made a risky decision. He told the others to keep moving while he stayed behind to open the hatch to the lower floor, hoping it would help control the rising water. His decision turned out to be the right one. Carter managed to open the hatch and narrowly escaped a deadly shark attack at the same time. But then things took another terrifying turn. Because of a loose screw, part of the staircase suddenly broke off and came crashing down. Luckily, the broken section got stuck on the other side, but one of the team members lost her balance and fell straight into the water. Carter immediately rushed to save her, doing everything he could to pull her back up. But he was 1 second too late. Right in front of everyone, a shark suddenly lunged at the woman. Carter grabbed onto her and fought with all his strength, but the shark dragged her deep into the freezing ocean in a single powerful attack. Within seconds, she disappeared beneath the dark water, never to be seen again. Everyone was left completely traumatized. And the worst part was, they were still far from the top floor. From above, they could hear terrifying thuds slamming against the doors. It sounded like the sharks had already reached the upper floors. Fear was written all over their faces. Just then, the chef arrived. He immediately threw down a clothesline and pulled them up before they could drown. With no time to waste, everyone started moving as quickly as possible. Ahead of them was a pump system that could drain the water once it was powered by the generator. The team rushed toward the control room and somehow managed to get the generator running. But just when they thought they were finally going to escape, things went horribly wrong again. A shark suddenly attacked from behind and brutally tore apart one of Carter's friends. Seeing this, Carter immediately swam toward the main gate. But before the shark could make him its next victim, the gate finally opened, and the chef arrived at the same moment. With everyone's lives hanging by a thread, Suzanne made another dangerous mistake. She couldn't accept that all their hard work and sacrifices might be for nothing. So, despite the danger, she went back alone to retrieve the research data. She unlocked a cabinet with a key and, after searching through it, finally found the samples they needed. But while she was doing this, she failed to notice a shark gliding through the water behind her. Thankfully, it turned out to be nothing more than a research model. But the relief lasted only a few seconds. Something else suddenly broke through the surface, and this time, it wasn't a fake research model. It was a real shark. The creature immediately attacked Suzanne, leaving her with nowhere to run. Desperate to survive, she climbed onto a shelf and desperately tried to keep herself out of the water. In the chaos, her valuable research files slipped into the water. She paused for just 2 seconds before bending down to retrieve them. That was when the shark started moving toward her again. Death was closing in fast. Then she noticed the burning light bulb above her, and a dangerous idea suddenly crossed her mind. She realized that a high-voltage electric current might be powerful enough to kill the shark. She quickly pulled out a wire and waited for the next attack. The moment the shark lunged at her, she shoved the live wire straight into its mouth. Electricity surged through the water, and after a violent struggle, the second shark finally went limp. But when she saw all her research data sinking into the darkness, regret hit her hard. She realized that letting the shark live in the first place had been the biggest mistake of her life. Unfortunately, there was no time to think about it anymore. The 3 survivors soon found themselves face to face with the deadly shark again. But its attack had completely destroyed Carter and Suzanne's original plan to escape directly through the main exit. Now there was only one option left, the emergency exit. The problem was that opening the door would cause water to rush inside at an incredible speed. So they prepared a fire extinguisher to help equalize the pressure. Then they deliberately allowed the room to fill with water. Once the water rose above their heads, they finally opened the hatch. The moment they escaped, all 3 activated the fire extinguishers. The massive cloud of bubbles confused the shark, and somehow their desperate trick worked. They finally made it to the surface, but their nightmare wasn't over yet. Out of nowhere, the shark attacked again, grabbing the chef and dragging him several meters away. Even then, the chef refused to give up. He pulled the cross hanging around his neck and desperately attacked the shark's eyes with all his strength. Somehow, he managed to escape death once again. Carter and Suzanne could only stare in shock. Carter immediately jumped back into the water while the chef somehow managed to climb onto a piece of wreckage. Suzanne quickly bandaged his wound, stopping the bleeding for the moment. Looking at the wreckage scattered around them, they finally realized the terrifying truth. Earlier, the thick walls deep underwater had kept the shark trapped inside. But now, the entire structure was slowly sinking, leaving only a thin metal grate between the shark and the open ocean. That could only mean one thing. The shark wasn't just trying to kill them, it was trying to escape its human-made cage and reach the open sea. And if they wanted to survive, they had no choice but to kill it. Suzanne looked at Carter and basically told him that for once, he'd finally said something smart. They immediately put their plan into action. They removed the explosive material from their signal flares and packed it into a harpoon. The plan was simple. Once the harpoon hit the shark, they would connect its wire to a battery and send a massive electrical charge through its body. But there was one major problem. The shark was completely focused on breaking through the door, giving Carter almost no chance to get a clean shot. When the shark refused to come to the surface, Suzanne made a desperate decision. She cut her palm on a sharp piece of broken machinery and jumped straight into the water. She was deliberately turning herself into bait. After all, she was the one who had broken the rules in the first place. She had used chemicals to enlarge the shark's brain, and she was the one who had ultimately set it free. She believed that if this disaster was her fault, then she had to be the one to end it. As soon as the shark picked up the scent of blood, it abandoned the door and charged straight toward her. But the clever creature still refused to come fully to the surface. Carter quickly realized Suzanne's plan wasn't working. Without thinking twice, he jumped into the water to save her. And then something happened that no one wanted to witness. The shark brutally tore Suzanne apart. Carter could only watch helplessly as it happened right in front of him. Now that the water was filled with blood, the shark turned its attention toward Carter and charged at him. But when it attacked, Carter didn't panic. Using his speed and agility, he narrowly escaped the attack. Then, at the perfect moment, he grabbed onto the shark's fin and used its momentum to push himself away. That's when the chef took control again. He grabbed the harpoon gun and carefully prepared to fire. He aimed directly at the shark's fin. The moment he got a clear shot, he fired. But in the chaos, he made a devastating mistake. The harpoon pierced through the shark's fin and continued straight through Carter's leg. The wire immediately went taut and began pulling Carter toward the shark. If Carter couldn't separate himself from the shark in time, the moment the chef connected the wire to the battery, the massive electrical charge would kill both of them. The shark was just seconds away from breaking through the metal grate and escaping the underwater base. Then, at exactly the right moment, Carter grabbed the net and managed to free himself from the shark's fin. At that same instant, the chef connected the wire to the battery. 1 second later, boom! A massive explosion erupted underwater. The blast was powerful enough to finally kill the shark. When the chef realized Carter was still alive, a huge smile returned to his battered face. After sacrificing several of their companions, they had finally brought the shark's reign of terror to an end. And that's where this incredible movie comes to a close. But the question remains, are the terrifying depths of the ocean truly peaceful now? Or is something even more dangerous still hiding in that endless darkness, waiting for its next victims? No one knows. If you enjoyed this movie recap, make sure to hit the like button and share this video with your friends. And don't forget to tell us in the comments, what was your favorite part of the movie?